Hi, this is Caleb Owens with the Insurance Experience. This is episode number 15 with Kerrington Johnson. Hi, Kerrington. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Caleb. How's it going, sir?
It's going really good. It's going really good. I'm really excited to talk with you and learn more about you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's take a deep dive.
All right, excellent. Tell me about yourself and your background.
Again, my name is Kerrington Johnson. The name comes from my mother being a Dynasty. That was a show that was going on in the 80s and the 90s.
Okay.
With the Kerringtons and the Cobys. So unfortunately, I've got both of the names incorporated in mine.
That's cool.
Henceforth. But no, I'm just a regular person who happened to step into the insurance industry by surprise. Never, ever in my life would I expected that I would be in insurance. No, it was not a first career choice, but I think that the person up above, for those who believe, guide you in the right direction that you should really go. And then I'll tell you, I don't regret it. I don't regret anything that I've done, but I surely don't regret insurance.
That's cool. That's really cool. Tell me, if you don't mind, just more about yourself, like your background. I don't necessarily mean childhood, but just your professional background. How did you end up where you are?
Look, man, I'm a man of color, and really in high school, we just didn't know about careers like this. Schools across America, it's a very limited scope of what they teach and what you have access to. And that can be symptomatic of some things that may be going in the news that I don't really want to get into. But
sure,
I'm going to tell you, tech in schools and having careers in, they call it CTE, technical and career training, or CAPE for some reason. We used to go to a building and we would have different types of quote unquote centers, if you will.
Okay.
And they'd have a lot of people coming and talking to us in our classes. I was in ROTC. I was in the Criminal Justice Club, very brick and mortar. And criminal justice, Homeland Security is what I wanted to do. But never insurance. Never insurance. We had infantry and building skills. We have never taught our young folks to be in the insurance industry. And the insurance industry is America. It hinges on the stock market. It hinges on everything. So when you really get to understanding that concept, my goal and my hope that when I leave this world and make an impact is I want to get young people to be in insurance. So to answer your question exactly from earlier, I wanted to be a cop.
Wow. Okay, that's really, I mean, if you think about it, like from a kid's perspective, you're just putting yourself back in a kid's mindset. You never want to grow up to be like a money man. No kid ever wants to be like, I want to be a financial broker. No, you don't know what the hell a financial broker is.
But Caleb, they do.
They do.
We'll say, we as kids, we'll say that we want to be celebrities. We'll say that we want to be ball players. We'll say that we want to drive the Lamborghini cars. We'll say that we want to do all of the above. But one thing that I'll tell you is that there's more than one way to make a little money.
Sure, but from a kid's perspective, and to your point, all the way up to high school and even kids in college, they don't really think about things like, I want to be in the insurance profession. That's just something, it's not sexy, it's boring. But as you pointed out there, it underpins a lot of other industries, from the financial industries. There's so many different industries, not just in the US, but worldwide. Insurance is there underpinning everything. And I definitely agree with you on that perspective. You know, that it's not just you, that so many people have no idea about it. And it's just most likely probably a lot of people in the insurance industry fall in it. But it's not necessarily something they really wanted to do per se, but it's just kind of, all right, I'm here. It pays the bills. I'm good with it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I really wish there was more of a push towards different types of careers.
I agree with you.
Rather than people finding out later enough. But yeah, after I graduated from school, I set out. I lost my grandmother, so I really didn't have an indication of what exactly that I was going to do. I knew how I would get there, and eventually that I would want to become an attorney, and really just jumbled up and not having any guidance. So I did everything from work commission sales at Best Buy being young. Then I got a chance to do some security. I'm from Port Arthur, Texas, and we have a large refinery presence.
I
So
know. I've been through there.
it's either go and work in police work, go and be a nurse, or you're going to go and work in Exxon Mobil or Valero or one of the majors.
And you're successful in those towns. If you work for Exxon Mobil in those towns, like you made it.
Yeah,
really, got it.
Really. But the question, and this is a great intro to some insurance, and I really got to control myself because I don't want to give some brokers and some agents some little tidbits for life here, because I do claims. That's my deal. But what do you do after you've worked 40 years and you have asbestos, you have COPD, you have things of that nature? Yeah, you've made all this overtime. You make out a good 401k, but do you get to spend that 401k? And that's something that one should ask themselves. And really, my determining factor was the sun. So I knew I wanted to be in an air-conditioned environment. And refinery 712s, they weren't going to work for me. So that didn't really, no.
I understand.
That definitely was not going to work. And I did some odds and ends jobs, got a chance to go work for a police department. I actually attended the 134th Police Academy over at Lamar Institute of Technology in Beaumont.
Wow.
And I just really didn't have the best of experience in police work. And a supervisor of mine, and I wish he can really be on this podcast because he really gave me the recipe for life. A supervisor of mine told me in the patrol room, he said, I want you to research 5 jobs a day. And that was our task. 5 jobs a day, something other than police work. He had a career. He was a 25-year veteran all over the country in police work. He had worked at several different agencies over the course of his career. And he said, I want you guys to go be better than me. Now, that didn't necessarily mean go outside of police work. That just meant he wanted his team to go eventually one day become the troopers, the bankers, the whatever the case was, be something better than a small town person. And so he gave me a task. He said, I want you to look at claims adjusting.
Wow. That was direct, huh?
Yeah. So I looked it up, found out how much money. Of course, the first thing you look at is how much the claims adjuster make. And there's a lot of false hope. In
all industries, it's that way. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
But especially in claims adjusting. And a bit at it. But I knew that Port Arthur had a lot of hurricanes. I knew that Port Arthur had a lot of natural disasters. And so I just sat back. I said, you can't lose. And I threw all my eggs in that basket. My first property catastrophe deployment, I went all the way to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I didn't get a claim.
Oh, wow. Man.
I wasn't flood certified. I didn't have the right tools. And there's a lot of jive in the business of where to go, how to go. I even saw somebody on TikTok doing a kind of like podcast, giving out some information. And then they tell you, okay, you can buy our seminar after this and we'll be your mentor, we'll be your coach. I didn't have one. I just did trial by error. I knew that I had to get a New York adjuster's license. And so,
why New York? Just out of curiosity. Sorry to cut you off there.
New York is called the golden ticket in adjusting. And I'm going to tell you why, because my home state is Texas, so you have to take the test past that. But New York is another state that you have to take a test in. Not a lot of people want to take the New York general test because it encompasses inland marine, and it encompasses property, it encompasses liability. Most of your classes that's out there that are your entry levels to adjusting is just going to be really property based. It's not going to have liability. It's not going to know inland marine. And you almost really have to be an attorney to decipher those coverages.
Wow.
So not a lot of people just give up.
Of course, it's difficult. So yeah, they stay away from it.
But I was fortunate enough to be able to invest in that early on in my career. So I already had it. And my whole synopsis of it was, hey, don't turn away any potential. Don't turn away anything. Be the one who has the credentials before they ask. So when you get an opportunity to interview, if Caleb said, hey, I got $1 million for you, but you got to do X, Y, and Z. I need to have X, Y, and Z before you ask me.
Right.
Hey, I can tell you, oh yeah, I'll get it. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, I got it tomorrow. Or I got it later that day. And then you'll be impressed. Oh, you got that fast? No, I already had it. So a part of just having a conversation with folks and really just intrapersonal skills and communication skills that I have and that I learned over the course of both my college and grade school career, I just never really liked to be unprepared. When I interviewed and somebody told me you can't get in this door, I just went, and I'm going to drop another nugget for the folks, Caleb.
Okay.
Get on LinkedIn and see what people have that spots that you want to be in. If someone is a CEO, look them up. And most people have all their credentials, have all of their background in school. Go for it. Model yourselves after that people. Once you get into the business, once you do that research, be better than them. Have more.
I like it.
Because they may have gotten a job based off of X. You need to have Y and Z.
I like your advice. That's really
and
smart.
when you have looked at my background and my history, the volunteering with Team Rubicon, which is a natural disaster volunteer organization that helps people in communities get back on their feet, whether it be cutting down trees or medical triage or helping them tear insulation out of their homes. Very good veteran organization, Team Rubicon.
Wow.
It's started by, I think, 2 Marines. But whether it's volunteering with them, volunteering with the American Red Cross, or volunteering at your local church, those are the things that you must start with, and you must lay the bricks at the foundational level to be able to say, I'm going to climb to the higher level. A lot of folks that may not list that they volunteered, they're part of secret organizations, i.e. the Masons and Freemasonry, different things like that.
Really?
So once you can understand that, once you can understand that there's insurance societies out there, whether it be a designation, the Institute Society, a Charter Property Casualty Underwriters, which I do not have yet, or an associate in claims designation, or you're going to volunteer with the CLM and take your level schools, the Claim and Litigation Management Organization. Those are all things and items that get you exposed into the industry. That's another tidbit nugget, if I could offer it.
So you're really saying that there's actually, I know about the Mason, I know about other organizations like that, but they're actually in the insurance industry as well. Like the higher ups, let's say, in the insurance profession are actually part of those organizations. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course. Those types of folks are regular folks. So they're in fraternities, they're in the different organizations that come with it. But as far as like the CLM, the institutes, even I think Texas has one called the RPA, which is registered property.
Property adjusters.
Okay. Yeah, there's one called Public Adjusters, RPA, which is Public Adjusters, but there's another one called Property Adjusters, and then it certifies you as a general adjuster and different things. But those, when you have those credentials, people are able to look at you and say, you know what, I once went down that tunnel too, or I thought about going down that tunnel. So let me give this person a chance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's really cool. It's really interesting. You're giving out really good advice to someone that's starting out in the industry. That's really cool.
Yeah. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about getting people started in the industry. because I'm at a director level now. I'm a director of claims and risk management for a transportation company in Kansas City that dedicates itself mostly to the railroad, but in hauling passengers and crews from one place to another. And I got my start in risk management from claims. I was working for an IA, putting $50,000 miles on my brand new Ram truck, and then COVID happened.
Oh yeah.
Completely. Insurance is the one thing that stayed current though. We didn't have any waves or anything. The current just really stayed at a steady flow. If you look at the stock market, and a guy who worked for Edward Jones was explaining this to me the other day. If you look at a fund and you look at the course over 0 to 100 years that a fund may be operational, how many times did it take that dip versus how many times did it take that incline? Okay, we know that things, when you read a graphs chart, things that incline versus things that decline, incline is a positive, decline is a negative, right?
Sure.
When you go up, you make more money. When you get in the negative, you owe the bank money.
Right.
Insurance is the one thing that stayed current. And in order for insurance, so let me just break down insurance real quick, Caleb, for the people who may not know.
Yeah.
Insurance, the course of insurance relies on the stock market. Why? Stock market is your gold, foreign and domestic imports and exports, company assets, whether it be Apple, whether it be Dell, whether it be any company in the world. How are they doing? Where do they have their money? And so insurance is, you come in at the brokerage level. So you got, everything comes in through a salesman. A company that's doing well, okay, a company that's on the incline needs more and more insurance. Why? Because they need to protect their risks, whether it be directors and officers, whether it be errors and omissions, E&O insurance. Target had a big credit card collapse where they leaked data a few years ago, and that caused a turn. Believe it or not, there was an insurance company that insured that.
Wow.
Cyber claims liability, protecting their, in this day and time, crime is really sophisticated. You don't have to pickpocket anybody in Las Vegas like they used to do. We don't have to be as fancy as the mob going to do things. People open this computer and they'll sell your information to that dark web.
Yeah.
Okay. They'll hold your business for ransom. Businesses, when they're locked out, they can't function. So who do they need to call? They need to write that off. They need an insurance company to be able to come in and help them avoid or incur that risk. And so what insurance does is it takes all of this money into a big pool. It's like a swimming pool, and you fill it up with water. Everybody's paying their premiums. Everybody's paying their fair share depending upon what their risk is. Okay, some may pay more than others. But once you put it all together, that's how they pay claims. Okay, so if an insurance company is not financially solvent, meaning they're not financially healthy, they can't afford to pay the claims.
Right.
Okay. Now, a smart insurance company is going to do what? Invest their earnings or a portion of their earnings into the stock market, back into other companies. So it's like seeds in the grass. It starts to cultivate. And once those seeds start, they're watered and it grows, it looks nothing like what it would become. When you plant a seed, it's just a seedling. Okay, when you water it, it sprouts. It makes a beautiful flower, and that's insurance, man. I'm telling you,
like a whole ecosystem. All these different things.
It's the ecosystem of insurance.
Wow, that's really. I'm really glad you explained it like that. I didn't understand at first where you're going with this, but you're absolutely right. And so as long as let's say that the broad U.S. like DJI, Dow Jones Industrial, was doing really well, and the US, so on average, is doing really well. Things are trending upwards. Then the US insurance industry is going to be right there lockstep with them. They're going to be trending upwards because the better these companies do, the higher their premiums go because there's more risk to cover. They're covering more things. And of course, those insurance companies are reinvesting their money, not just letting it sit idly in a bank account. And it's also increasing as well. So that's a really interesting explanation of the whole ecosystem with insurance. Wow.
Yeah. That's how I've tried to break things up into things that I can understand. And that's my take on it. It might not be a take for others, but that's how I understand it. And that's how I'm able to, not only because I've worked claims first, and then I've got into risk management. Okay, back on track. We just took off into a tangent. So I was working claims, windshield time, 60,000 miles on my brand new Ram truck in 2019, going to on-scene trucking accidents. And another thing that you have to understand, and I'm going to tell you, is trucking. We just talked about how companies do well, but transportation has to get those products, those services, and those goods from one place to another. So that creates a risk because we have unexperienced drivers there. We have intoxicated drivers there. We have things that happen poorly maintained roads.
Yep.
Okay. So now we see how things start to shape. While we have things like departments of transportation, we have things that monitors everything stems on insurance.
So on top of that, I'm sorry to get you off of that, but because you're absolutely right with transportation, and the more you drive or the more your company is moving more goods, the higher the likelihood you're going to have an accident. You can do everything right, you can check everything correctly, but your chances, your odds of having a major accident are going to go up just with the number of goods you're moving. And then that kind of leads me into the railroad industry with all the major accidents that they've been having. And a lot of this has been going on long before the one that we saw, forgive me, I think that was earlier this year, that the major accident, was it Palestine, Ohio, that happened? And that was a huge embarrassment for the whole railroad industry. It just made them look really incompetent, and the DOT as well. You could even say that. The entire DOT looked really bad on that whole thing. Just like, where are you guys at? You're supposed to be covering all this stuff. So that's, sorry to go off on that tangent there, but you're absolutely right with the risk. The more you move, the more risk you're going to have.
Yeah. So after that, working claims for an IA firm, I got the opportunity to work in risk management for a major trucking company in the Greens Point area of Houston, Texas, which is near Bush Intercontinental Airport. Yeah. And really just got immersed into a whole slew of different tasks. I managed a healthcare plan for employees. Wow. If you have 51 or more employees in your company, you have to have a Affordable Care Act compliant healthcare plan or a group plan. And you have to provide these people with adequate enough benefits. Again, got to watch the news. You know, when you vote, it matters because those federal regulations, those state regulations, they determine how companies are governed. They determine the profitability of companies. And also, not along with that, I manage workers' compensation and occupational accident insurance. And so dealing with injured workers, helping them get back on their feet to their jobs, managing workers' compensation fraud, or if this person is just going to sit here on the couch and, okay, they're comfortable with collecting the check, and then they're comfortable with just going to a doctor and maybe playing that, staging that accident a little bit out, just a little bit more, and just really getting to the point where, hey, I'm not going back to work. Managing those risks. And then, of course, your auto NGL, general liability claims, slip and falls, and auto accidents, managing those risks, getting on the phone, talking with these attorneys and saying, hey, okay, how can we speed this process up a little bit further? Are we going to go to mediation? Do we have arbitration? And just really driving that risk, putting that cycle in, getting those claims, dishing them out, knowing what to do with them from the field. And so the company decided that they wanted to sell. And in that, I went back and I worked a desk for a TPA, which is a third party administrator, means that they handle claims on behalf of the insurance company.
Did you like working for them? A TPA?
I did. I like working for a TPA, and I can tell you why I like working for a TPA. TPAs have their place in that insurance companies sometimes they are more focused with lowering the rates for their customers, that they may not have a room for a claims department. So what a TPA does is it basically just staffs adjusters, and you have the ability to work for all kind of different customers, all kind of different clients, from insurance companies to self-insureds that carry high self-insured retentions, meaning that they're responsible for a certain amount up to maybe they may have a $2 million self-insured retention. So what that means is they're responsible for the first $2 million of every claim that they have. So if a claim
must be high net worth individuals then.
Well, most of the people that own successful companies are high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
When I worked for a transportation company in Houston, the owner was a TV star and had a big show on A&E in the outdoor sector. And he owned probably about 55 companies. One company that he had was a company that did about stunt doubles and how they replace people in the movies. He had stunt cars. So what he had a graphics department he had a big warehouse with special select cars, whether it be Fast and the Furious, Herbie Fully Loaded, and they would sometimes damage those cars or do stunts and flip them over, and they needed cars to be fixed up and whatever. Or say, for instance, okay, if you're watching a TV show and it's Blue Bloods with Tom Selleck, and Tom Selleck rides in a black Tahoe he's driven by an officer because he's the police commissioner. So they would have black Tahoes and police cars staffed. So when these people call and say, hey, we need this for production, they just really print the graphics out, stick it on the car, and they put it in the show.
Wow. That's really cool. So it's just, there's so many different facets to all this. Like that's something I would never even think about, but there's a business there that does that, just caters just to that, specializes in those types of cars and things like that. That's really cool.
Or I think he owned just a bunch of red box kiosks all throughout the city of Houston. People still, for whatever reason,
they can.
But with some good old Wi-Fi and Amazon Prime or something like that, you can just get everything that's on there. But
Redbox is really big back in the day, though. Hell, back in the day, 5-10 years ago. 5-10 years ago, Redbox was really big. It was everywhere, and they were making money. Clearly, that was a profitable business.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this. Before Netflix, I thought that Blockbuster would never go out of business. And now that I realize Blockbuster set the tone for companies like Netflix. The only thing that I think that was Blockbuster's downfall was people didn't return the videos. And
you know how much they would charge people for not bringing it back up to 2 or 3 days? It'd be like, that's $65. And you're like, yeah. Now it seems so absurd that we did that. But at the time, you didn't have anything else. But you would go, you remember that? And you would rent the movies, and then you had to rewind them. Do you remember all the rewinding? If you didn't bring them back fully rewound, they would charge you on top of all that. Now it's just like, now we're so spoiled. Or this whole generation is just, you can get anything you want just said at your fingertips. If you want to listen to some song, whatever it is that just pops into your head randomly, you can type it in your phone and bam, within seconds, you got it. We didn't have all that. It was like, if you wanted to get a song, you had to go pirate it off of LimeWire or something, or you paid for it. You had to pay for that song by itself, and that was not cheap. It was just really interesting how much of all that has changed. But you're right.
I felt really bad early on in the LimeWire years, because I never could figure out how to download that, which I don't recommend that people pirate. But
it was back in the day. Now
LimeWire
it's now.
LimeWire is a thing of the past now.
Yeah, nobody knows even what that means. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say that. Nobody from this generation or younger knows anything about that. It's pointless. It's just like, why would you do that? Now you can just type it in your phone and you got whatever you want.
I asked one of my little nephews. I said, "Hey, you know about Napster?" He said, "What
Yeah,
is that?"
of
Uh,
course.
I said, "Man, it's just Apple Music."
That's it. That's all it
It's
was. It
Apple
was.
Music. It just took a long time to download with that telephone cord and plugging it
I
up to the
remember all
computer.
that.
But yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So
So,
go ahead.
oh, I was just going to ask you what's next. So tell me, you're talking about you were in Houston, right? And you were doing all those different, working for those different companies there, working healthcare and all these different things like that.
Yeah, and I've done anything from professional liability in the medical malpractice industry,
Wow.
whether it be nursing homes or hospital groups. I've done lawyers, no missions. I've done stocks and bonds, surety,
Wow.
insurance, a wide different range of stuff. Of course, I've done your property. I've done your slip and falls, your general, your auto. I've done garage keepers, and which is dealerships, auto body shops. I've done pretty much it all. So at this time, I would say that I'm just looking to really just build. So you have to always remember those foundational principles of going back and as you play at the highest level. So the only thing that you can't really get ASAP is years of experience. Years take years. So as you're gaining those years of experience and you're putting in, you're paying your dues, like my grandmother used to say, everybody
Yeah.
has to pay their dues. Everybody is a member of some type of union, whether it be a union that you govern by yourself and you govern nobody else. There's a union. So at this juncture in my life, it's just basically building, gaining some more industry knowledge. And who knows, I'm a director now. So I have a goal. I'm not 30 yet. I have a goal of maybe becoming a vice president.
Wow. That's a
You
pretty
know,
big goal.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But understand that while it takes time, that just you have to put in the time as well. It takes time, but you have to put in the time.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially like you're saying, whenever they're getting started, because you end up in this paradox where the companies want you to have experience, but to get in the experience, you need to get started in the industry. So it can be difficult to get on that first rung of the ladder. Once you start climbing that, you start getting years of experience under your belt, then you're on your upward trajectory. But that can be really difficult to get started in any industry, but especially the insurance industry, because they won't hire you. They will not hire you unless you've got X number of years experience. It's kind of like you're saying that you can get all your certifications, everything like that, but till you get 2 years or something like that experience under your belt, that can be difficult.
Most certainly can. So tell me about PIH. I'm going to turn the
Yeah,
interview on you.
sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so Premier Insurance Housing, we provide temporary housing. We're mainly focused on the residential or property. So this is the individual or consumer level. We provide be it hotel spaces, apartments, single family homes, whatever they need, we provide it. We really try to go an extra mile and take care of that actual end consumer, which is the insured, usually families that we're dealing with. We provide a lot of additional services for them. So let's say that we're trying to put a family into a single family home. We'll actually pay for their deposit to get them into the property and take care of any other things that they need to help them get into that property, because that can be a big problem. You don't really think about it, but a lot of people can't come up with let's list $2 million. How about $2,000, $5,000? A lot of people, a lot of families struggle to come up with that much money. Yeah. And like they just don't have it. It's just not there. And if they don't have those funds available to them, they end up staying in a hotel space, which paradoxically burns through the money faster. You're actually consuming money much faster staying in a hotel space and actually getting them into a single family home. Yeah. That's when we'll step in. We'll provide everything for them to get them into the property. And we also provide we're really focused on technology because we really feel that's where the industry is moving towards. So we use robotics process automation technology to facilitate, make everything much quicker. So a computer is never going to replace people, I don't think. I don't really think we're anywhere near that. But what it can do is make things more efficient for us. So there's certain instances, especially in our occupation, where a person is not going to do really good. It's those monotonous, boring tasks. And I myself can include myself into that list. So those things that you're just doing over and over again that are monotonous and boring, we are horrible at that, people in general. So that's where a bot does amazing. It just jumps in there and does exactly what you program it to do. And it does the same thing every single time. So we take that. It can do about, let's say, in about a minute to 5 minutes, somewhere in that range, depending on if it gets caught up on something like that. It can do what about 48 hours a person can do, which, if that gives you any kind of comparison to how much faster it is, it's just mind-boggling. And then, of course, we take all that technology and we use that, we leverage that to reduce our prices, because it will. It reduces prices dramatically. It's like it scrapes the whole internet, and then we can really reduce these costs, and that gets passed on ultimately to the carrier and consequently as well to the family, because if we can get them a property that's cheaper, then their whole ALE and all their funds get stretched out further. That can be a big difference. If you're talking about a family that's going to be staying in a property that's covered by their coverage with their insurance, or if they have to come out of pocket for those funds, that can be huge difference for people. We do that, and then we also do the commercial side as well. So let's say that you got a commercial claim with a office space or warehouse, whatever it is, we'll step in there. We'll provide the same type of loss of use. So that can be like, sometimes it can be a matter of renting a trailer, and sometimes we can do numerous trailers, like 6 or a dozen trailers set up to facilitate so they can still stay in operation. We're trying to reduce that loss of use, that downtime, so that company can keep moving on, because downtime will kill a company. If they cannot continue to operate and continue to move on, that can really sink a company. So they have to keep moving. So we try to do the best we can to reduce that. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean always finding a whole nother space for them, like another warehouse or another office space for them. Obviously, that's what we do most of the time, but it can be like a matter of, let's say, shifting their entrance or something like that, so where they can still use their building. They just cannot use this portion of it. So if we can find a way to where they can shift that, then they can continue to operate. And so we operate in those fields as well.
Hey, Caleb, I'll tell you what you're doing is very important, because I can tell you this. When I worked property desk adjuster for Jake with the khakis, I can tell you that ALE and things like equipment breakdown, what you just said, really breaks a company. And for the consumer, the regular person, that homeowner, and whether it's not a commercial space, just a residential space, having a home versus a hotel room to stay in is very important. And I have a degree in Homeland Security and emergency management.
Wow.
Emergency management is like the risk management for a government entity. It's more catered toward emergency management, managing the risk of the city. And I can't tell you how many elderly have passed on because they got displaced from their home.
Wow.
Or they had the hurricane came, destroyed their home, and they got displaced into a hotel, and they just couldn't figure it out. Maybe they may have been at the early onsets of Alzheimer's. And then that really affects a person, and having to go through that while talking to the insurance company, getting the adjuster, getting that check, and then contractor fraud, because contractor fraud is very real. People coming by saying, hey, I can fix this roof, getting the money and never showing back up.
They were doing that a lot with the assignment of benefits, AOB. I'm sure you know about that. And those contractors are doing exactly what you're describing. Mm-hmm. They were getting these, unfortunately, it's a lot. It's elderly people. They prey on those people. And so they were getting them to sign over all their AOB benefits to that contractor that was supposed to just be there to repair a roof or something like that.
Yeah.
So they were taking their full claim, everything from these people. And so it wasn't just a matter of they lost out on one little aspect of it. They lost everything. They lost all their AOB benefits because of that contractor. So you're absolutely right.
And then when you have things like temporary housing, home or trailer versus an apartment, home, I don't like to use the word trailer because that's a bad word, home or a mobile home. It's important what you're doing for the community, whether you believe it or not, is you're helping with the food disparity, people making bad choices. If I'm living in a hotel, I'm more likely going to go to McDonald's because I
Mm,
can afford to eat out
yeah,
at Denny's or maybe some of the 5-star restaurants and get those food groups versus I have a temporary home that
right.
has a refrigerator and is fully furnished and a kitchen where I can cook. I really just am able to, like you said, stretch my dollars, go make groceries, and I can think clearly. I can go to work clearly.
Yeah,
I can perform those essential functions. That way, when I have to coordinate and try to, some people were even their own general contractors. When the consumer, that homeowner has his work cut out for them, they need ease. And I know that in Southeast Texas, where I'm from, that's very important. That's very important.
so you mean the food, or you mean just the above, just everything
It's
together?
really all of the above. I'm a proponent for temporary housing.
Mm.
I'm a proponent for companies that can resource and find different alternative solutions. And like you said, I didn't even realize it till we were talking here now, getting businesses back on their feet. Because if an insurance agency is completely damaged, they need to be open. More than likely, State Farm will have the big trailers and they'll serve the customers out of the trailers. But those people can only fit, it's only so much of them that can fit into one space. And really, they send a catastrophe team down and they don't share the trailers with the local agent. And a lot of people are going to trust their local agent who they can go into the office and say, hey, can you scan this, make copies of this, things like that. I'm a big proponent of just the whole temporary housing concept.
I'm really fascinated you talked about that, because I just had a conversation with a gentleman earlier this week, and he actually worked for, he opened my eyes to a lot of things. I know about this industry, and I still didn't know about all of these different emergency response teams that like Walmart has. I'm like, Walmart? The Walmart that I know, they have an emergency response team. He said that HEB in Texas, he said HEB has an emergency response team. He mentioned Sunbelt, the equipment rental company. They have a whole emergency response team. And I was like, no way. Like, I can't believe, I know these companies, but I just never imagined them having an emergency response
And
team.
you know why that is, Caleb? And
What? Tell me.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
tell you and be just completely honest.
Yeah.
The reason why that is because there is federal funding that
Hmm.
helps these companies, or they may get a tax credit or something to that nature.
Oh, I did not know
They
this.
help them get on
Okay.
their feet because not saying that companies don't donate, but if the government is willing to give a company an incentive, they're more
Mhm.
than likely to dedicate a whole department to just
Yeah.
providing that emergency
Okay.
response.
This makes
So,
more sense
you
now.
know,
Yeah.
once I got into that part of my studies, I learned how it all comes together and the world works together.
Yeah. He was telling me about just exactly what you're talking about. He said that whenever they go in there, because he worked for an emergency response company, and that's what they did is they went in, let's say Hurricane Ian last year with Southwest Florida. After, I mean, it destroyed like huge sections of Florida, just completely wiped out. Some of those islands, they lost their causeway. That's their only transportation to get to the island and back. And so they lost that. And so he said that they would go in there, because he works for a larger company, and they would go in, they set up like grocery stores. They're going in there setting up the big stuff, the hotels, the hospitals. They've got to get all that kind of stuff going, he said, first, to get your HEB and different grocery stores like that going. Because
Mhm.
without them going, you can't bring people back. There's nothing to come back to. If they did come back, there's no food, there's no water, there's no infrastructure to come back to. So he said that they focus on that and they get all that kind of stuff going first so that they can start bringing people back in.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really interesting.
I tell you what, it'd be interesting, I think, and I'm just brainstorming and I like to come up with grand scheme ideas, as my mother would call them. But I can tell you what, it'd be pretty good for a temporary housing company to partner with city, state, and local government and find some people because there's disaster everywhere,
That's true.
every day. So
Yeah.
it'd be good to know where the resources are. And as you said earlier, technology really helps too.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's another thing he mentioned is different companies. He was giving me a lot of contacts to reach out to And like you're saying as well, like city, state. And so you're not in Texas any long. You are in Texas, right? You're in Houston.
Yep,
correct?
I sit right outside of Houston.
Okay. I've been in Houston. I loved Houston. I stayed in Houston for a couple of years with my wife. And we stayed in a couple different areas. We stayed near the airport, the George Bush Airport one time, and then we stayed closer to downtown the second time. But yeah, we really liked Houston. Had a great time there. But they have there's a department in Houston. It's a private public company. It's called Texas Wind and I'm butchering this, Wind and Storm. And basically it's like a government-backed insurance carrier. The last resort, it's called.
Texas Wind Storm.
Is that it? Is that Texas Wind and Storm? I got it right.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, TWIA.
You're perfect. All right, excellent. You just like that. Yeah, so
I have a certification as an adjuster in TWIA, so I better know what it is. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so they insure, let's say, all the coastal areas. So like all the counties, Harris County is one, all the way down the coast of Texas, where you're going to expect those hurricanes coming ashore, a lot of the wind damage, everything like that. They're there. And so they actually are handling all the emergency response, everything like that. I've been trying to get in with that company as well. It can be difficult to get in with companies like that, even government agencies and different things. It's even more difficult, but keep trying. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. You keep knocking on enough doors. A lot of people may slam the door in your face, but one person will listen to you.
That's right. It's just odds and numbers. Definitely. Kerrington, I really enjoyed this. This is you opened my eyes to a lot of things. And if you don't mind, we'll share this on social media to different people that might take little pieces of what you said to heart and really inspire them and guide them as to what to do, especially your bit about LinkedIn. I really like that. Yeah. You know, if you want to try to be a CEO, go look that CEO up on LinkedIn, find out what his credentials are, be better than him. I like that too.
Yeah. I would say share it out. And that's my goal, really, just to get out there and just spread the knowledge about insurance in a good way and let them know that insurance is not boring. It's fun.
Oh, yeah, you're saying it. But so many people think of, because I guess it's just connotation. It's just like a history of just being and you don't think of people in insurance like yourself that are not like you're a typical boring person, like an office space or something, sitting behind some desk counting numbers. You're not that. And it's not like that anyhow. Insurance underpins, like you said, everything that we do in society. It underpins so many things in the financial sector, so many different things. So it's really important, and it's not boring, like you're saying.
It's not boring. It's not boring. You just have to find your calling.
Yeah, definitely. All right, excellent. So I'll try to probably invite you back on for another episode in the future. But do you have anything else to add before we hang up here? Or finish?
No, Caleb, I just thank you for having just a plain conversation. And I like what you're doing with the podcast. Keep going, keep driving. And I really think that this is important podcast. Anytime that we can bring some notoriety to insurance, anytime we can bring some notoriety to risk management, anytime we can bring some notoriety to things like temporary housing, it's important. It's important because so many people, they don't know, and they may need a resource. So maybe our target audience is not even somebody that is trying to get in the industry. Maybe it's somebody who is just trying to understand the industry a little bit better. And for that, I would say you're probably one of the trailblazers or soon to be trailblazers of putting good information out. So for that, I just want to say thank you.
Hey, thank you. I second you on that. I think you did all the information. You shared a lot of really credible information, really good information on how people can go about doing things, and open my eyes as well. It's a lot of different things, especially about your bit about the stock market. I really like that. I didn't know where you're going with it at first, but you tied it all in together. I was like, wow, that's really, you've got a great point. That's really how things work, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for your time. And hopefully we can do another one in the future.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Gary.
Bye. Hi, this is Caleb Owens with Premier Insurance Housing. Do you need help with ALE or temporary housing for your policyholders or clients? If so, we would love to help out. We offer a wide range of services, and we offer our services nationwide. We offer mobile homes and fifth wheels to single-family homes and apartments.
To request our services, just click the link in the description or give us a call, 405-604-0786.